Hey folks, this is Chris Johnson at Living Waters Fly Fishing. Today we are going to tie Galloup's Articulated Fathead. This streamer is amazing for trout in the Mountain West, but it also is very productive for Guadalupe bass and other predatory species that we have here in the Texas Hill Country. This is one of my all-time favorites for the Llano River. I love this pattern. It does an amazing job. You can strip it right through current or fish it down deep with a sinking line, and the Guadalupe bass and largemouth just will absolutely trip over themselves to eat it. So we're going to get started, show you how it's done. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started with the Articulated Fathead. So Kelly Gallup's the originator on this fly, and obviously this thing was created to be a sculpin pattern traditionally, but it really does function well as just a general bait fish pattern for the Texas Hill Country as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're using, both hooks are going to be this L11S-3H, and this is a really heavy hook, short shank, great streamer hook. And I'm tying with a 100 denier gel spun from Simperfly. And this is just in the brown coloration. So first step, we want to add some Marabou. So we're going to just take a, this is called UV Sculpin Tan. So this is from Nature Spirit, their Fish Hunter Marabou. Really, really good stuff. This color is awesome. So all we're going to do is tie in the tip section of this Marabou. So kind of get the tip. Splay everything out here to where you're just capturing the actual final fibers in the quill. Going to go back about yay far, nothing past the hook point itself. Snip that off. Get your thread up to the top here. Splay all the fibers out on this Marabou, and if you do have a rotary vise, this is a good chance to use it, where you can actually take this and simply wind it forward, just like so, and you'll see the fibers begin to flare. Very, very good opportunity to use that. All I would say is just every couple of wraps, make sure that you tease those out. If you have a small brush or bodkin, you can also use that to tease all the fibers out appropriately. So not too hard of a job all the way around. If you have like a, for instance, if you want to just palmer it and you don't have a rotary vise, you would simply just hand over hand like this, stroking it rearward as you do that, and trying to not capture any of these. See how those get captured there? You just have to tease those out by hand or with the brush. You want to go as close as you can get to the hook eye. So here I'm going to take that. I'm going to do one more wrap to get us right back where we need to. I'm going to go ahead and take this and tease these fibers out. I got a couple that are caught in there. So take those and just kind of tease those out. Just like so. Once we've done so, get to this point here, stroke everything rearward that you can, about like so. Take the thread and just simply cross over the material just like this. That's all we're wanting right there. Tie that down, make a little thread head. I'm going to snip this, get rid of that there. Take a bodkin, any of those that just got trapped, you can just kind of tease those out. And that one was in there really good. Good deal. Just looking like that. All we want to do is stroke everything rearward. I'm going to build a little thread head on this is all I need. I like that little thread head for this next step. Got a couple of shorts there. I'm going to get rid of those. All right. Pull everything rearward to where this Marabou, if you see, it's going to be, you know, if you're going to have some short stuff, that's okay. You can keep it if you want. I normally just kind of pull that to where everything kind of makes this nice, continuous kind of veil, if you will, off the back of the fly. This thing is a heavily motion-oriented pattern. We're going to take, you can take Mallard flank. In this case, I shot some widgeon last year, so I'm going to use some widgeon flank. It's going to serve the same purpose, just different bird. And we're going to lay that flank feather right there over all of that Marabou, and it's simply going to shroud that, kind of cup it down. The important part is making sure that it's on the absolute back of that. You want it right there, so to where that quill sits right down the back of it is what you want. Come in there and give that a snip. and tie that down. Finish off your little thread head there. I'm going to come in there and whip finish. That's all I'm going to do. Scissors are dull. Probably about time to replace those. I think I've said that on several videos thus far, but I keep just trying to eke a little bit more life out of them. Take your fly tire Z-Mint or whatever head cement you're using. I like the Z-Mint personally. Do not get it in the hook eye, but I love this stuff. Works really, really well. I'm just simply going to push a little bit of that into those thread wraps, just make sure that gains me a little bit more rough and tumble on that hook. You can pull that one out of the vise, save it to the side for later, and then we're going to add our size 6 in the vise. All right, now we're going to add some thread to this. Just take this little guy, kind of the same story. We're going to work this a little bit further rearward simply because we are going to have a few more materials going on here. You're going to need some articulation wire. If you're tying with sizes smaller than 6, you can use a smaller wire. This is a larger than a size 6 on the, or 6 or larger on the front, so I'm going to go ahead and use the bigger wire. You can do this. There's so many trains of thought here of how to do this well and effectively. I like doing, basically what we want to do is actually make sure that the wire is on the top of the hook the entire time, that it never comes off to the side. So first steps first, you can do that. I like being just extra positive that this stuff is not coming out of here. So I actually fold this back over and tie it down. Is that necessary? Probably not. Does it make me feel good? Yes. And that's really all I'm in it for, is making sure that I don't have to worry about that going anywhere. Once we have that in, I'm going to take 3 medium glass beads in red, and I'm going to thread those on. So bead 1, it'll look like this. You see that little guy right there? We're going to take 3 of those, thread them onto our articulation wire. Sorry, I threw one right there. Let me get it again. Got a case of Marabou and deer hair and everything going all over the place in this office right now. Take our 3rd one, almost. I threw it again. There we go. Slip it on there, and we've got 1, 2, 3. The hook that we laid aside, what we want to do is actually take it now and thread it on, and you'll see that it's going to just butt up right against those 3 beads. What we want to do here is thread the wire back through the beads and make sure that it is absolutely on top of the hook. So I'm going to try to keep this absolutely centered on top of the hook as I tie this in. If you need to manipulate it and push it over, that's totally fine. Watch your hook point. Apparently I didn't. There we go. Tie that in very, very firm. This 100 denier gel spun, you can really lean on it, so there's no problems there. But that's what we want, is just that little spacer. Again, because I'm paranoid, I'm going to bend that back over, make some wraps on it, and then come in here with some really cruddy scissors. I use these old Arrow scissors. They have that notch in the back of them. Just come in there, and typically you can kind of saw your way through those things. Just like that, tie the rest down, and we are ready for some flash. So Kelly uses Flashabou. I'm going to use a red crystal flash. I just really like the scaled appearance of crystal flash. So we're going to use a little bit of that. And you can do however much you want. There's no law that it has to be a certain amount or anything like that. About like so. I'm simply going to kind of get that to splay all the way around the hook like that. Stroke it rearwards. We have 1 stray there. There we go. Pull it back. I'm going to try to get all of them without sticking myself. There we go. And now those will splay all the way around. What I'm going to do is cut them of a similar length, so I'm going to try to get everything all at once. Do about like that. And that is just going to kind of flash through the fly periodically during the retrieve. I've found that to be quite a good thing in this case. When you're retrieving this through clear water like the Lano and things of that nature, it doesn't seem to hurt the fly whatsoever. I think it just only strengthens the presentation, having that little flash of red coming out of there. Next step is some more Marabou. Repeating that same process, tying in the tip. You can break that off if you want to after it's tied in. Again, if you have a rotary vise, you can simply take this and rotate it forward. If you do not, it is hand over hand, making sure you're not capturing fibers in the process, if at all possible. Just kind of tease that out. Teasing all that out, watch that rear hook. It'll get you. It didn't get me, but it almost did right there. Teasing all that Marabou out. Just like so. That's exactly what we're wanting right there. Now, if you want to, you can come through there with a brush or a bodkin or anything like that to aid in making sure that that's not getting caught or stuck, anything like that. I'm going to throw a couple of securing wraps in there. Go ahead and trim that business off. Make a few wraps here. And then before I go any further, I'm going to make sure that all this Marabou is teased out correctly. Make sure we don't have any that are caught. There was one little one there that was caught. Everything else is looking pretty good there. This thing just moves like mad in the water, so it's such an amazing pattern for any sort of selective bass or anything like that. It just does such a great job. It'll sway side to side. Obviously, you know, created to be a sculpin pattern, but it just does a wonderful job here in the hill country. I'm going to take another widgeon flank feather, trying to make sure that it's pretty uniform. Mallard flank is what the recipe traditionally calls for. I know Kelly uses 2. I'm just going to use a single. Put it right on top. And I'm going to move that into the proper position. The most important part about this is that it sits directly on the top of the hook. And that's exactly what I want right there. It needs to sit just like that, kind of getting all that Marabou down, doming it over. Once you've done so, come in here and tie this down nice and firmly. Don't want that one going anywhere. And that's what we're after. Now it's just time for some deer hair work and we should be good to go. All right, deer hair on this fly. I'm just using general mule deer. This is nothing fancy. It's not even dyed. This is just natural mule deer is all it is. I'm going to move a few things out of the way here real quick, so pardon me. I'm going to get a decent clump of deer hair for the collar. I want a pretty thick collar for the back of this fly. Very important part of it. So when I say generous, I'm talking pretty generous. First step, always, always, always brush out all the broken tips and the underfur. We don't want any of that. So get all that gone. That stuff is better collecting in the corners of your office than it is tied to a hook. We're going to take our hair stacker, put in our hair tips first, kind of help it in there. There we go. Nice even bunch of deer hair. Take that out, pull any of the short ones out that you have. I'm going to go one more time because I basically, you can see it's a little bit uneven after removing some of the short ones. And that's what we want. We got one little piece there that'll come out. I'm not worried about that, but that's a final, very, very well stacked bunch of deer hair. So we're simply going to take that collar and we're going to hold it with our material hand, capture it here with one wrap, don't pull all the way, 2, 3, 4, 5, pull down, and don't let go with that material hand, and I'm going to make a few more wraps through it. This 100 denier gel spun really does help when it comes to this, and I love this part right here is the fact that I still get this great collar, and I'm going to mash that collar down and pull just a little bit. And you can see here, the collar's poking out there, all the rest of the deer hair is here. All I want to do is now come in here and trim this off as tight as I can get it down here at the base. Now the question is, why am I removing all the good deer hair? Well, if I was just going to tie this fly, for basic, basic just fishing, you could probably leave all that if you wanted to. But the way that this is traditionally done is to cut all that away, and then you spin your other batches right here on top of all this to where there's not a gap between your collar and the rest of your bunches. Okay, so once we've trimmed that away, if you got any other long ones, you can get rid of them. I got a couple down there. They just pull out. It's pretty darn easy. So here, pull everything back. If you got some weird stuff going on with hair, I'm not really worried about it because we're about to spin a whole bunch of hair right on top of this. And that's all we're doing. Tie this down nice and firmly because we're going to be spinning hair right on top of that. And if you did it right, you should see, this is looking pretty good. You're going to see hair out the sides of the hook and off the top of the hook, but not on the bottom of the hook. That should be pretty barren down there because what we're going to do is we're going to spin some hair and it's going to fill in all that section there. So everything that we just cut away, like all this stuff right here, any of that doesn't matter because we're not adding any of the collar there. That collar is just to be on that top 180 degrees of the hook, so just on the top side only. Next step is to add a bunch of deer hair. So we're going to take one bunch, tease all that under fur out. If you got a brush, use it. Get all that gone so that it spins nice and effectively. We're going to do 2 bunches more than likely. First bunch we're going to add right here. Come over it with the thread, kind of gather it up with that thread wrap, pushing it right into the collar. 2, 3, 4, pull, and you'll see that it spins all the way around the hook, just like that. Oops, I got too happy with my gel spun. If that happens, and it does using gel spun, this gel spun can cut cut hair like mad. If that happens, especially on a big batch of hair like that, just simply get it back to start position, cut you another bunch, get your deer hair, all your under fur out, and all that sort of good stuff. You don't need any of that in there. I'm going to just tease all that out. If that happens, just restart it again. I just pulled a little hard right there is all I did. Come in there, 1 to gather, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many, and then make that pull. It'll spin, and that's when you apply your pressure. And that one I didn't cut. That last one I think I was 1 to 2 thread wraps shy of what I needed there. And that happens. If you've not cut deer hair before, it's gonna happen. So once you've done that, you can see we do have a little bit of room left. I'm going to pack that in there just a smidge, just to give myself a little bit more working room. You can see I've got a little bit of room behind this eye, and I want to make sure that that's nice and tight back there to where I've got enough room to spin one more small batch right there. That's all I need. I've got just enough room here to put one more small clump. When I say small, it's got to be small-ish. You can't do too much here, or you're going to run out of room on the hook eye. So about like that. Come in there and gather it. Just like so. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pull it, spin it around, just like so. And we're all the way around. That looks good. Pull it rearwards. And snake your thread right there by the hook eye. That's it. Good. Give this a little shove. Kind of pack it in tight. Alrighty. And a little whip finish and we should be good to go. Then it's trimming time. So come in here just like this. I'm going to try to get all this hair back to make this whip finish, just like so. 1, 2, 3. Slide it, give it a pull. Come in there with that. We are solid. For the trimming process, all we're going to do is take a double-edged razor. These things are very, very, very sharp, by the way. So do be aware of that. This is a Derby Extra is what this is. All we're going to do is turn the fly over, kind of find the hook point, and we're going to trim the bottom flush. So what you're going to see here is this deer hair bottom kind of right into that marabou, just like so. Next, I'm going to curve this over and make that domed head that Gallup's flies are so famous for. And cut that right into the collar. That gives me the shape that I'm after. The final step is to come off the sides, and we don't really want this packed tight. We just want to shape it to where it has that little bit of a shape out the side. And that really is it right there. You could sit in here and play with this thing and trim it and shape it and do whatever you want, but from the grand scheme of things, you don't want this to be like hair bug tight. This isn't a fly that is, you know, supposed to be that, because this hair is supposed to shed water when it's cast. So everything here is literally just to give that head shape, and that's it. So we're taking that, trimming it back into the collar, and that's pretty much it. If you have any random long ones in the collar, you can pull those out. Give that a nice little puff there, make sure we're good. Make sure you remember that that rear hook's back there. If you don't remember that, it will by all means warn you occasionally. Cut that right in, and that looks good. That looks good. And then I'm going to come into here just to make sure and cut that bottom flush. And this is where I'm trimming with the razor outward. I'm actually moving this towards the camera and away from the camera. Then what I'm left with is this nice head that looks just like that. If you've got any stuff that you want to hand trim, you sure can. But that right there is just a basic head shape for something like this. And this little articulated fathead just moves like mad in the water and is such a great all-purpose streamer. I highly recommend it next time you're out. They're not too difficult to tie. The deer hair work isn't all that demanding, and just a fantastic little bug. I love these things. Fished one yesterday on the Lampasas River, so highly encourage you to give it a try. Thank you so much for watching. If you got any questions, just call the shop or let us know, and we can help you however we can. Thank you all again, and have fun out there on the water.